I'm in court, and I will testify against someone close to me. The man I fell in love with. And he used me. How did this happen? Subscribe to the channel, and I will tell you the details. And I'm waiting for a like. My name is Angelica. I'm an ordinary girl who can't imagine my life without music. Since childhood, I have constantly hummed something to myself. It's like there's a music box running in my head, and I can't turn it off. This made my mother terribly angry.
Please stop! My head is already pounding. Stop whistling this tune.
I became quiet, but after a minute, the melody itself burst out of me. First, my mother took me to a psychiatrist. She was sure that I had some kind of mental disorder, but the psychiatrist advised me to send me to a music school. I didn't like it. At school, they forced me to study a lot of different subjects, but I just wanted to write songs and sing them. I left school after a month, and even my mother's threats didn't stop me. Soon, my mother left me alone. She had more serious problems. She and her father were getting divorced. I took it in no way. Almost all of my friends' parents are divorced. Some people lived with their mother and spent their holidays with their father. Some are the opposite. The parents separated quietly, no tears or scandals. Dad just packed his things and moved out, giving me a big pink notebook as a farewell gift. The same evening, I recorded my first song in it. It turned out to be sad, but it was as if a stone had been lifted from my soul. Since then, I carried around pink notebook with me. Lately, my mother was working late. This was probably her way of trying to distract herself from sad thoughts.
Honey, I have an urgent business trip. For a week, maybe more. I agreed with Dad. You will live with him.
It's cool. I haven't talked to my dad for a long time. And it's interesting where and how he lives. In the evening, my mother took a taxi to the airport, and I received a message from my dad.
Honey, I have a meeting until late. The driver will pick you up. The bedroom is ready. Feel yourself like at your own home.
Does Dad have a driver? This is something new. Maybe my father was promoted. And when I saw the luxurious mansion where Dad now lives, I was completely confused. Either this is a joke or Dad robbed a bank. The interior design was very modern. Minimum furniture, lots of mirrors, soft lighting. And it turned out that I not only have a separate bedroom, but also my own large bathroom. The pleasant sound of water filling a large, shiny bathtub was relaxing. I closed my eyes and started singing. Oh, it was so cool. At home, I turned the water on full so that my mother wouldn't hear me singing in the bathroom. But then she swore that I was using too much water. And here, no one. I opened my eyes to catch my breath and almost choked. I saw a guy in the mirror.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you.
Who are you? I pressed myself against the wall.
Matthew. And you?
What are you doing in my father's house? The guy looked at me suspiciously for a couple of seconds and then laughed.
Peter told me that his daughter would come. Exactly. You're Angelica, right?
Peter is my father, so the guy knows him. A couple of minutes later, Matthew and I were drinking hot chocolate in the kitchen. The guy handled the coffee machine so skillfully that all my doubts disappeared. He really lives here.
You have a great dad. He and I quickly became friends. Yes, and he loves my mother. Although her character is not simple, she had a hard time in life. But now she is rich, successful, and works in interior design.
Now I understand why this house is furnished with such taste, and where Dad got the driver from.
You sing great.
I blushed. Matthew is the first person to compliment my singing. I write songs too. I blurted out.
Wow, and I have my own recording studio. Can you imagine?
Matthew winked at me.
Let's hang out there tomorrow and you can show me your songs. Is it coming?
He's still asking. Certainly. And in the morning, a surprise awaited me. It turned out that Dad arrived home late at night. Matthew's mother also returned from a business trip. Everyone, including Matthew, was having breakfast in the kitchen. Dad's new wife saw me first, a very beautiful, well-groomed woman with long hair. She rushed to hug me.
Hello, Angelica. I'm Rachel, Matthew's mom. Sit down and have breakfast with us.
While drinking coffee, I secretly watched my dad's new wife, beautiful, well-groomed. Rachel knew her worth. Dad carefully poured her hot coffee, added freshly cut fruit. He didn't look after Mom like that.
Well, it's time for us to go.
Don't be bored, kids.
Rachel smiled at me, and a couple of minutes later, she and my dad disappeared out the front door. And we went with Matthew to his studio. Mom gave it to Matthew for his birthday. Previously, he had his own rock band. They even recorded several tracks, but it did not bring much success.
I'm not worried. You need to be able to enjoy life. That's what I'm doing now.
Matthew chatted incessantly, and I absorbed his every word. He loved music, just like me. This is incredible. I showed him my pink notebook with songs. Matthew's eyes sparkled when he saw how much material I had accumulated.
Sing the song I heard yesterday in the bathroom.
Matthew winked at me. I closed my eyes and began to sing. An hour later, the track was recorded.
Yes, Angelica, there's definitely something about him. We need to record a few more songs and try to promote them on the radio station. Everything will work out.
Suddenly, Matthew hugged and kissed my forehead. Butterflies fluttered inside. He believes in me and in my talent. He wants to help me. We didn't leave the recording studio for a whole week. We recorded a few more tracks. Matthew said the guys he knew at the radio station were interested in my songs.
But this is no longer a joke, Angelica. You and I need to conclude a contract. I will become your producer and officially promote you. You will become famous.
And Matthew hugged me tenderly. During this week, we became very close. He was my soulmate. I buried my nose in his shoulder, and Matthew suddenly kissed me right on the lips. Between kisses, I put my signature on the contract. And then we went for a walk. The next day, I got home. I really didn't want to, but my mother had already returned home 2 days ago and was offended by me. Matthew promised to start promoting my songs for now. We agreed to meet on the weekend. For several evenings, Matthew and I constantly corresponded. But by Friday, he disappeared from the radar. And my pink notebook also disappeared. I guess I forgot it in the studio. The weekend was ruined. The guy didn't respond to my messages. Only the answering machine spoke to me. What happened? Maybe he's busy promoting me? Another week passed and it was crazy. Tests, essays, I didn't get enough sleep. But I passed everything brilliantly, and in the evening, my mother took me to a cafe to celebrate my success. We were already approaching when suddenly I felt like an electric shock. I probably heard it. I turned up the volume and choked with happiness. My track was playing. My track was playing on the radio station. Out of emotion, I told my mother about everything. About the recording studio, about Matthew. Let's go to the studio, Mom. I'll introduce you. I'll sing, and you will see that I have talent. Mom chuckled in disbelief, but still agreed. The lights were on in the studio, so Matthew is there. I knocked. I heard quiet steps. Matthew, open up. It's me, Angelica. Silence. I felt something strange inside me. I walked around the studio from the yard and entered through the back door. Matthew walked along the corridor with long strides, and I was nervously talking to someone on the phone.
Don't freak out. Give me a few more days. I'll think of something. The track becomes popular. Great. Then we'll launch the next one, and money will flow like a river into your pockets. Let's find some girl who will open her mouth to the soundtrack. Much better than the ignoramus who wrote them. And most importantly, I have a notebook.
Matthew, what are you talking about? I couldn't resist.
Get out of here. It's none of your business anymore. You signed the contract, and she transferred the rights to all her songs to me, so bye.
And Matthew pointed with his eyes to the door. I couldn't understand anything. Suddenly my head started spinning. I hurried to the exit to take a breath of fresh air. 2 weeks have passed since then. I pressed charges against Matthew. He illegally took my songs. It turned out that according to the agreement, which I signed without reading, the rights to all my lyrics and melodies were transferred to Matthew, and he stole the pink notebook from me. It has now become the subject of controversy. For a month now, one of the central radio stations has been playing my track. Listeners like him, but I can't be happy. I'm offended and bitter that my talent was used so rudely. Whether I'll be able to prove that I'm right, I don't know. But the main thing is that Dad left Rachel. It turned out that at one time she broke up our family, promised Dad mountains of gold, but simply used him in her own interests. How Matthew used me. And now we're all together. My mom, my dad,
They support me very much, and I am happy. And I'll still write new songs.
May, good name. Short and sonorous. He looked at me appraisingly. Like in a store when you choose a toy or stock item, and no one would have guessed that this is a father's look at his only daughter. Hello, I'm not allowed to give my real name at all. The contract is prohibited, but I'll tell you, to not forget who I am. Alexandra, the usual normal name for an ordinary girl from Colorado. A year ago, I lived in the suburbs and was very happy. Mom and Dad loved me, spoiled me, protected me from everything. But one night changed everything. At that moment, I realized that everything was a sham and that nothing can be changed. For now, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell, and I will have the courage to tell you all the details. From childhood, my father always told me that I have a wonderful voice. There was a piano in the living room, and I often played music on it. Vocal and instrumental teachers came to me. I practiced almost every day. I liked it, but nothing more. But Dad always motivated and praised me. You must work hard, develop your talent. And I worked. I didn't want to disappoint Dad. I am his smart and beautiful girl. But my mother, she rarely left the bedroom in recent years. She was tormented by a migraine, then insomnia. But on those rare days when my mother still sat on the terrace with a glass of wine, I was very worried. After all, a couple of years ago, my mother was a very popular singer, and my dad produced it. All the walls in the house were covered with diplomas, awards, and photos of a happy and beautiful mother on stage. I read about her on the internet, since my mother herself never told me anything. And why her career ended so abruptly, I did not know. When I asked Dad about this, he only gently hugged me and said that Mom was tired, so she decided to take a break from the stage. One night, I woke up from a strange noise. It's like something has broken. I flew out of the room, went down to the first floor, and heard my mom arguing with my dad. I hate you! Do you hear? I hate you for ruining my life, Diego! But I won't let you do the same to her! I saw how Dad came close to Mom, grabbed her by the arms, and forced her to sit on the sofa. She began to sob. Dad handed her a glass of water and a handful of pills that magically appeared in his palm. He did not shout, did not swear, but whispered with restraint. You are just tired, Anthea. Drink. Everything will pass. Stop calling me that! I'm not Anthea! This is what you came up with! It's all lies! My mother yelled so much. I have never seen her like that. But then, Mom went limp, buried her nose in Dad's shoulder. He stubbornly handed her the pills. Mom drank them in one gulp. And after about 15 minutes, Dad picked her up, already half asleep, and carried her to the second floor. I pressed myself against the wall so that he would not notice me. This case was a turning point. I never saw my mother again. Dad said that Mom needed to rest, so she went to the boarding house to heal her nerves. From that day on, I began to study vocals even harder. Stage skills were needed. And there was very little time for school and homework. Dad transferred me to homeschooling, noting that soon I would not need it either. One evening, my father asked me to dress nicely and style my hair. He said he was expecting guests, and I had to make a good impression. The outfit itself, and it was a short leather dress with a corset, looked rather defiant. I realized this when I went downstairs, and everyone in the living room was silent. Dad was sitting on the couch, and next to him was another man in dark glasses. He looked like a rapper. Baggy clothes, a big chain around his neck. He whistled when he saw and nodded to Dad.
Not bad, Diego. What can she do?
Dad looked at me expressively, like, come on, show me what you have been studying all this time. I played the piano, sang, showed some dance moves, and even paraded a bit. I was terribly uncomfortable. That uncle with glasses was looking at me without looking up, but I didn't want to let my dad down either. After my performance, Dad nodded for me to leave, but crouching in the hallway, I heard Dad urge his friend. "She can. You will see. Give her a chance." And now I'm sitting in the office of that rapper. It turned out that he had his own studio, and Dad signed a contract with him for a year, and together they will promote me as a singer. From now on, I am no longer Alexa, but May, a sweet-voiced girl with a sad face. I didn't know how to react to this. On the other hand, to become popular, recognizable, every girl of my age dreams of this. But on the other hand, I had no choice. Dad decided everything for me, and now even Mom was not there to take my side. Endless rehearsals began. Learning a song for recording the first single. Choreography, several photo shoots. Dad paid in various editions of promotional articles about me. I was put on a strict diet to get leaner, plus sports. I got up very early and went to bed after midnight to do everything. Dad controlled my every move. And somehow he suddenly began to demand a lot from me, not really choosing words. He used to cheer me up, praise me, but now I was a complete non-entity on which he spends precious time. Maybe the other would have burst into tears, rebelled, or simply turned around and left. But I only clenched my teeth tighter and worked. The advertising worked. The first single was recorded, and it went well to the public. The song stayed at the top of the charts for 2 weeks, and my dad wanted more. He decided to record a few more songs in a month and go on a little tour with me. "We will choose small halls to fill them to capacity. A photographer will follow you on your heels, fixing your every step and posting everything on social media networks. Subscribers like to spy on the lives of famous people, and we will give them a chance." Dad's eyes were burning, and my head was cracking. I wanted to have a normal meal and sleep. I was like a robot that just followed other people's commands. The tour has begun. 5 cities, 5 concerts, and 5 sold out. The audience went crazy. I could hardly understand where I was and what was happening to me. Stage costumes were already hanging on me with a rag. I could hardly stop the trembling in my hands from constant hunger. But Dad didn't notice. He rejoiced and handed out interviews left and right. Before the final concert in New York, I felt really bad. I was nervous. It was the largest hall for 20,000 people. And I'm fucking tired. Plus, I caught a cold. I was shivering all night. The performance was scheduled for 7 o'clock. I had a dress rehearsal and had lemon tea in the dressing room to soothe my sore throat. There were 2 hours left before the concert. Dad ran in and said that a lot of people had gathered outside. "They're chanting your name, do you hear? This is a resounding success. I've already signed a contract for the next tour, May." And then I could not stand it. Nerves gone. "Dad, I can't. I'm very tired. I need some rest." My father boiled over and said contemptuously, "I wouldn't let you ruin everything. Stop whining. Get it together." But I couldn't calm down. The head began to spin, and I lost consciousness. I woke up from the fact that someone whispered over to me, "She needs to go to the hospital. She has a fever and several exhaustion." As if through a fog, I heard the cry of my father. He was outraged. "Give her something. Concert starts in 15 minutes. We won't cancel anything. Let it perform." "Dad, I have no strength. I'll fall right there on the stage." "Enough. You are already a grown girl, so it's time for you to find out the truth." And Dad told me that I'm not his daughter. When he met my mother, I was a few months old. And while my mother was building a career as a singer, I was raised by a nanny. And then my mother could not stand this crazy schedule and left the race. And he invested a lot of money on it and burned out. And now it's my turn to repay her debts. Now I'm in rehab. Diego gave me a month to recover. And then I have to get back to work. He has a contract. But I won't give up so easily. I spent a week here, calmed down a little. I talked to someone, and I hired a lawyer who will protect my interests. I'm ready to get back on stage, but on my own terms. I won't give up like a mother. I will fight for myself. Support me with a comment. And I think you will hear the continuation of this story soon. I am Anna. I'm 17. I live in San Francisco, and I got into a very unpleasant story. I've done something that now I don't know how to fix it. And is it possible? And it all started because of a guy. Ethan is the name of the handsome guy that almost all of my classmates run after. His name is included in the wish list of every self-respecting graduate. About people like him, they say, golden youth, and here without exaggeration. From a wealthy family with a very famous pedigree. Handsome, smart, with a wonderful sense of humor, his pluses can be listed endlessly. And I dreamed about him from the 5th grade. Then we almost collided head-on in the corridor. And the textbooks that I carried in my hands scattered in different directions. Ethan quickly collected everything and returned it to me. And he also smiled very sweetly. And that's it, I'm gone. 3 years have passed since then, but my feelings for him are only getting stronger. All this time, I sighed hopelessly on the sidelines. Ethan will never turn his attention to people like me. After all, people like me are a herd around Ethan all the time. How to attract him? Recently, I was attracted to YouTube by an advertisement for the training How to Make Him Fulfill My Desires. The girl spoke so confidently about it that I decided to take a chance. Soon, we will finish school. We will all part ways, and I may never see Ethan again. So, with the money given to me for my birthday, I bought full access to the training. The first task was pretty easy for me. I had to answer a series of questions related to my victim. That was the guy called who had to be hooked up. And I had a whole dossier on Ethan. Therefore, questions like favorite dish, home address, what computer game does he play on weekends were super easy. My mentor, a very beautiful young girl, Lilibet, was constantly in touch and sincerely supported. Well done, Anna! Now we need to find a way to get closer to Ethan, so that you constantly flashed before his eyes, but unobtrusively. Knowing that Ethan was on the high school football team, I signed up for the cheerleading squad. Who else but cheerleaders are present at every training session of football players? And so it happened. Now 3 times a week, and sometimes on weekends, Ethan was constantly in my field of vision. In a couple of weeks, I had to start getting closer. Lilibet called this the first contact, which for the victim should happen as if by chance. After training, I sat in the hallway playing Ethan's favorite mobile game on my phone. Seeing out of the corner of my eye that the guy was leaving, I turned up the volume on the phone.
I didn't know girls played that game. I like her too.
Ethan smiled at me again, the same way he had 3 years ago. I was a little confused, but I nodded to him anyway. And for 3 hours, we played a mobile game together. This is your first small but precise victory, Anna. Lilibet praised me when I shared the news with her in the evening. After the game, we sat down at a cafe nearby, and I hit the jackpot again by ordering Ethan's favorite salad. We sat in the cafe until the evening. Ethan chatted me on all sorts of topics, wondering how much we have in common with him, and I just knew all the right answers. The next week passed like a dream. Ethan and I spent more and more time together. Every day, I pulled a new trump card out of my sleeve. I brought a couple of pieces of coconut pie to training, and after treating Ethan, I received a compliment in return. It turned out to be his favorite cake, and mine turned out exactly like his grandmother bakes. If only Ethan knew how much time I spent in the bushes with binoculars watching his grandma bake that pie. And then, as if by chance, I remembered that in the evening, I watched another American football match. And the San Francisco 49ers were as good as ever. Ethan jumped on the spot like a child.
Do you watch football? Are you rooting for the 49ers? Incredible! This is my favorite team too.
Certainly. I spent a couple of evenings cramming the list of the players of this team, and the reviews of their games are worn out to holes. By the end of the week, Ethan was convinced that I was the girl of his dreams.
He was waiting for me after lessons near the class, went with me to training, and escorted me home in the evening. When he gently grabbed my hand in farewell and touched my temple with his lips, I almost fainted. Finally, my dream is coming true. But according to the rules of the marathon, I have to behave detached. Smile, keep up the conversation, but do not take the initiative. Lilibet, I really want to hug him, grab his hand, and stop looking for the right answers. I told Lilibet in the Zoom about the past day. This will be the biggest mistake. It's too early. Now he needs a cold shower. Do you remember what it is? And Lilibet looked at me meaningfully through the Zoom window. Of course I knew what that meant. In the materials of the marathon, this was a turning point. I had to show that guy that he means nothing to me. To bind Ethan even more to me. It sounded crazy. But as Lilibet assured, it works. I needed to disappear and absolutely ignore Ethan's calls and texts. A few days and he must understand that he cannot live without me. For final instructions, we met with Lilibet at a coffee shop near my house. It turned out she was passing through San Francisco, so we met up. I arranged everything. You'll be out of town for 3 days. She handed me the keys to the room. It turned out to be a small boarding house in the wilderness. Wildlife, lake, birds, complete relaxation. I told my parents that I would stay with a friend for 3 days. Lilibet blocked Ethan's number on my mobile, closed my account on all social networks. No communication with Ethan, otherwise you'll ruin everything. I exhaled and went to the boarding house. There I walked all day, read, relaxed. I did not see other guests. The receptionist was always there, but he never disturbed me. In the evening, I went out on the terrace to admire the stars.
Good evening.
A soft voice came from behind. It turned out that not only I decided to go out for a breath of fresh air, Benjamin checked into the boarding house the day before yesterday. That was the guy's name. And it's not the first time he's been here. Sometimes he comes for a couple of days to relax. Studying at a medical university is very difficult, especially if you are from a family of famous surgeons. We sat with Benjamin for coffee until late in the evening. It was so easy with him. I didn't have to think what to answer, how to look. It was not necessary to keep in mind the entire list of instructions from Lilibet. It was just me. We laughed, gave funny names to the stars, shared our dreams. At night, already falling asleep, I realized that I hadn't thought about Ethan even once during the evening. It's funny. Benjamin and I also spent the next day together. Without saying a word, we met for breakfast. Then we walked to the lake. He spent the whole day lying on the sunbeds. First, we threw pebbles into the water. Then, we read each to our own. It turned out that it's even comfortable to be silent with Benji. And in the evening, near the reception, I noticed 2 suitcases. And Benji, are you leaving?
I have to. I can't cancel the study, but it was very cool here with you. I didn't think that I would meet you. So I left my contacts at the reception. And he handed me a small envelope. A few minutes later, a taxi pulled up to the boarding house. Benjamin winked goodbye and drove away. I hid the envelope in my purse. I will definitely write to him as soon as I figure out my personal life. I tossed and turned in bed all night. I decided that I wanted to end this game. I want to be myself. I don't want to fit in with a guy. Early in the morning, leaving the boarding house, I rushed home. I'll call Lilibet now. I will say that I did not cope. But Lilibet's phone was silent. Without thinking twice, I dialed Ethan. Silence. Yes, what is it? Okay, practice today. See you there. I was waiting for Ethan outside the school. I prepared a whole speech. Now he will obviously be offended and will bombard me with questions. Where have I been? Why was it impossible to get through to me? Here's Ethan, and with him, Lilibet. What? What does it mean? When they saw me, they stopped. Lilibet whispered something to Ethan, but Ethan didn't react. Now I'll figure it out. But as soon as I opened my mouth, Ethan raised his hand in warning. Don't, Anna. I saw the photo. You and him look great together. But why are you doing this to me? I didn't offend you. On the contrary, I thought we… Ethan, dear, we have to go. We have tickets to the VIP box, remember? And firmly grabbing Ethan by the elbow, Lilibet dragged him to the car. Trying to come to my senses, I wandered around the city until night. Lilibet used me. Both the boarding house and Benjamin were all set up. There on the terrace we looked like a couple. And this marathon?
tasks? Was it all fake too? Hello, Anna. I automatically reached my house, and there Lilibet was waiting for me. Listen, don't be offended. Yes, I liked Ethan. When I rummaged through the internet and realized what family he was from. And then you have a complete dossier on him. With such information, it was very easy to drive up to the guy and fall in love with yourself. And I wanted an easy, carefree, and rich life, you know? Run away now from here and not see this nasty, arrogant face. Let's make a deal. You liked Benji, didn't you? I filmed you in the boarding house, and I saw there was chemistry between you. Take it for yourself. We've been working with him for a long time. The guy is not bad. Get out of here! And quickly slipping past the surprised girl, I ran into the house. I didn't sleep all night. This marathon was a mistake. I decided to force a person to fall in love with me by manipulating him. That's what I got in response to slap in the face. I'm very embarrassed. Until the end of the school year, I tried not to cross paths with Ethan. I saw them a couple of times with Lilibeth, but then she disappeared too. Now it's summer. Through friends, I learned that Ethan did not work out with Lilibet, and now he is fully focused on his future studies at the university. And I just try to forget this story. In a relationship, you have to be honest. I learned that. Here's my advice to you. Do not lie. Do not invent anything. Just be yourself. And then everything will definitely work out for you. And finally, I have in my hands the same envelope from Benji. I don't know what's inside. Maybe it's empty. Or maybe there really are his contacts. Open it up? Write in the comments, yes or no. What do you think?